Hello, my name is Scott Napier, 25-year professional bluegrass musician, and within the last 9 years, I was associate professor at a traditional music program for KCTCS. One of the most frequently asked questions I get from students who are novice and intermediate is, how do I play faster? What does it take to get to that peak level performance? And I get it, because in bluegrass music, there's so much of the music is super fast. And even myself, I try to increase my tempo. I mean, I'll sit down at times or listen to a ridiculously fast song and think, how can I get there and play clean? And that's it. That's the problem. Getting your hands and fingers to move at a higher rate is one thing, but doing it with clarity and authority takes to relaxation. So I always tell the students to play smarter, not harder. And that means just loosen your entire body, from your shoulders down to your arms, to your legs and your feet. Believe it or not, the way that you position your feet when sitting or standing can have an impact on your smoothness. You tense your entire body up. So I've been on stage and in concerts before where I'm just sitting in and it's a music I'm not familiar with, and they'll come in and they'll be playing it a little bit faster than I rehearsed or in what I thought that it would be. And I still, after all these years, have a mental, I think about it, be loose. It all comes from a story when I was recording with an iconic bluegrass band. And I was coming in after a mandolin player who was a mentor of mine. And I was nervous, and we're in the studio. And I think they could tell I was tense and just not playing at my best ability. And a well-known audio engineer leaned in my booth right before I started playing, and he said, "Be loose." So that was like, it all made sense at that point. But an extreme example would just be a G scale. So I'm assuming you're familiar with a G scale by now if you're intermediate. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. As we learn to play and we figure that out, and our muscle memory lets our fingers do that and go there. Right away, we're like, how can I do that faster? So what happens is, you get it. You're going through it. You're doing it faster than you thought you could. You're impressing your friends who are not musicians. They're like, wow, your fingers are going crazy. How are you doing that? But deep down, something's not right. It doesn't sound like the guy that you're listening to on record or on the radio. And it all boils down to loosen up your notes, your hands, your shoulders, your legs, your feet, all of that. Another dilemma I think that runs into players when they try to play fast is they're not rotating their pick. And what I mean by that is you go down and up. You just take turns. So the G scale. For instance, if you want to do that and you're only playing downstrokes or mostly downstrokes, or if you rotate your pick, it literally cuts your work in half. So be sure that you're rotating your pick. And then even if you are rotating your pick, sometimes do you slip up and take it out of the equation and hit a couple downstrokes. A lot of times when you're changing strings, for instance, from here, so that's an upstroke, and then the next note is a downstroke on the open string. Some players will go, they'll do 2 or 3 in a row that's down. And it's human nature. I think the most common way to play is down. So the upstroke is a bit of a mystery. You're going against gravity. But you want it to sound exactly like your downstroke, which is generally a little weaker, and you're confusing your fingers at first, how to go up. One good way to do that is, it sounds silly, but play only in upstrokes for a while. A lot of blues influence and bluegrass influence mandolin playing, such as Bill Monroe, so much of that is downstrokes. So, for instance, the iconic mandolin kickoff to Bill Monroe's Mule Skinner Blues is all downstrokes. So there's always exceptions, But what if you practice only in upstrokes? Feels weird, even I messed up there. So just to be mindful with the use of the pick that your downstroke and your upstroke is equal. Also, open notes. When we play open notes, I think some players tend to rush through those because they're a freebie, if you will. You don't have to make a note with your left hand. And we're always thinking about what our fingers are going to do next because we're attracted to that flair and that movement. So sometimes a player will go, they'll rush through the open note, or it'll just sound inconsistent like. So we want to make our open notes sound fretted, yet make the fretted notes sound open. What I mean by fretted is when you mash down on the fretboard, these are frets, so that's considered open. That's an open note. This is fretted. This is the second fret, the fourth fret, the fifth. So listen to how I can make them sound more consistent. And another thing you want to think about as you're cleaning up your playing is to let the note ring all the way until you replace it. A lot of students will get into this. So they're cutting off those notes, rushing to the next note. They're trying to be one step ahead in their mind with where these fingers are going. So, and that will also make your open notes inconsistent. They tend to be longer, or sometimes they'll be cut off in even shorter. So let them ring all the way until you replace them. And it's not something we want to hear, but you got to back it all the way down and play slower. Even if you feel comfortable playing at a little faster than you're currently playing. So you want to go a little bit faster, and you can pull that off with some minor mistakes. Sometimes the player will neglect those mistakes because they're going faster. They're playing to the next level for a minute. It's not long-term happiness though, because you know deep down that you're flubbing up some notes and you're rushing through some notes. They don't sound consistent. So just back it down. That's an old fiddle tune called Soldier's Joy. A good medium tempo for that. But say you're playing it more like a lot of stuff going on there, ringing notes that don't belong. It's moving around in volume. Back it down. For instance, that's harder for me to do at this tempo than it is here. That becomes somewhat of an autopilot. Here, I'm really having to focus on each little note, and sometimes I want to rush through those open notes, just like what I tell students. It never goes away, so just be mindful to be loose. Let your notes ring as long as they can. Pick rotation. Push yourself. Go to your comfort zone, and then a little past that in terms of tempo, and then back off. And then when you come back up to the speed that's a little higher, it won't seem so fast. Okay, not only is the tempo and the speed part of the problem or frustration with newer players, it's what they play and the amount of notes. I think right along with learning and thinking and dreaming about playing faster, we hear recordings of prodigy type players who are just going berserk. And again, that's what attracts us, seeing the left hand just go crazy. But it adds to the confusion when you're trying to play beyond your tempo, but inject all of the licks. And when I say licks, I just mean flair and flash within a solo. So For instance, a straight way to go would be, that's adding a lick. And we're attracted to those. And it takes years. In fact, a lot of older musicians, and even me now at this point, say we spend a lot of years learning as much as possible, but then the rest of our lives trying to figure out what to take out. I think that applies to all art, painting, film, whatever it is, the taste. So just be mindful as you're backing off your tempo and practicing at a slower speed. Also think about what you're playing and the amount, the quality. You want quality over quantity. So right back to that simple scale. Now we're in A. So you can phrase it an unlimited amount of ways, like, but just take it back to its bare essentials, and with solos as well. So back your tempo off, really edit and analyze what you're playing. So, but all that in mind, I think it's still important to push yourself and to get in situations to where you have to play faster and harder. I know it sounds like I'm contradicting what I've been telling you, but with this recipe of being loose, backing off, rotating your pick, watch your notes, your open notes versus your fretted notes, conserve energy, less notes. With all that in mind, then you push forward and increase your tempo, and you'll be playing with way better taste. I should also point out that it's talking a lot about the right hand and the pick, but your left hand is equally important. A lot of beginner, intermediate players, and even beyond, will move their fingers more than they have to. For instance, an extreme example. So whenever they're hitting an open note or lifting off their fingers, they move their fingers way out of the way. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. You'll get a lot of that. So if you're going to go really fast, you don't have time to move all that and put it back. Or they'll make a chord change from G to C to G to D. And they'll tend to turn loose of everything and then reshape it. And then, so that's all part of the process too. And don't push down too hard. I think part of the tension that I was talking about that slows down your progress and your speed. You don't want to press the note any harder than you have to. So you can just hear that tension with your, the listener can hear that. So I'm pressing it really hard with my left hand now. Versus okay, so as we've learned how to play faster, just be mindful of the key points here. To play smarter, not harder, meaning be loose from your shoulders down all the way to your feet. Have a relaxed left hand. Don't press too hard. Watch your pick rotation. Cut your work in half with down, up, down, up. Be mindful of the open notes versus the fretted notes. Let them ring all the way to the end until you replace them. And all that to say, still push yourself though. Listen to songs, play with recordings, play just a little beyond your comfort zone with the mindset of backing up, editing, taking out some of the notes, play slow, work your way back up, and play with good taste. Think about your favorite songs and play them in a way that you would like to hear them. That still works for me. I imagine myself in the audience listening to the favorite, best possible way to play a solo, and I try to play that for that person that's out there listening. So with that in mind, good luck to you, and here's my favorite song, My Old Kentucky Home. Thank you.